This episode is brought to you by Muntins Malts, a company that is passionate about providing premium malts to brewers worldwide. For over a century, Muntins has been a leading supplier of brewing and distilling malts, offering the finest British malted barley on the market. You can experience the difference Muntins offers by joining a recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club, because every kit that ships out now includes premium Muntins malt. You know, we've known the Muntins crew for a long time, and I can tell you, friend, you're going to love brewing with their grains. Ask your local supply shop to carry Muntins malts, or homebrewers can join our Trub Club at homebrewhappyhour.com/club. Be a part of the community and come brew with us. Thank you, Muntins, for supporting our efforts and homebrewers worldwide. Today's show is brought to you by Hopsdirect.com. Grown in the esteemed Yakima Valley on the Pewterball family farm, Hopsdirect.com offers the widest variety of hops available online at incredibly competitive pricing. It's simple. They grow hops, they sell hops, and they ship hops straight from their family-owned farm to your doorstep. Producing the highest quality hops is Hopsdirect.com's passion, and they're proud to be an independent grower in the craft beer industry. Go to Hopsdirect.com right now and get what you need to make your brew day better. That's Hopsdirect.com. Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch-right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Adding water post-fermentation to increase batch size, bottling beer in plastic soda bottles, and various ways to bottle from a keg. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 362. Well, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. And if you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com. Click on that submit a question link at the top of the page. But even better, what is that, Josh? How does it get better? You call our hotline at 325-305-6107. You leave a voicemail. I tape your voicemail and I use it on a future episode. And you get yourself a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com. It doesn't get better than that. But anyways, I'm one of your hosts, Joshua Stooming, joined as always. He is the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com, Mr. James Carlson. My friend, Guten Morgen. Guten Morgen. Hold on. Why does the fade out button never work? Fade out. Hey, it faded out. In my ears, because I'm deaf, I have it cranked up like the monitor level. Mm-hmm. And that thing, I know because I've edited the show or we've done enough episodes, it's not coming through that loud in the final thing, but good Lord, is the music so loud in my actual ears.
Hey, Josh, can you hang on just a second?
Yeah, absolutely. Take your time. I'll do the small talk.
Sorry.
You're good, brother.
Podcast.
Yeah, no worries. I got it from here. So, friends, while James is handling business,
I didn't realize you were coming in.
Here, I'll mute his channel, and how do I pin myself so that I just am me? You're good. Wait, hold on. I muted the channel. You're back?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Sweet. I was about to take over on the small talk, and I realized the Zoom was like trying to show your camera. I was like, no, show me Zoom.
Because I was talking.
Yeah. No worries. I'm leaving that in though. Anyway, if people watching at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour may realize Mr. Burns is not here. Todd actually, hey, look, a new FedEx trap. Todd actually is at the coast, which he's at the same coast I was at last weekend. I left, my wife and I's 16th wedding anniversary was Friday the 15th. So we left Friday to Port Aransas. I had rented a beach house. My wife thinks, oh my gosh, you're spoiling me. It's like she doesn't realize beach houses are dirt cheap in the winter at the coast. So win-win. But we got a nice little house right by the pier. I don't know if you go to Port A bunch. You know, Lantana, that kind of dead ends right there at the dunes and the piers right there. We got a house. Yeah. We got a house up Lantana, like right by the elementary school and the church. It was a great location because it was a walk from everything downtown, as downtown as Port Aransas has. And then it was a 10-minute walk to the pier. It was great. I love the spot. Cool. The house had a nice pool, whatever. But Todd and Liz, so I think it was a coincidence of timing because I'd had this trip planned since summer, and I think they had theirs planned for a while too. But the timing of it lined up to where they left on Wednesday of this week, and they're coming home Saturday, I think. Before
why don't they just spend Christmas all together at the beach?
It's just the two of them. The girls, his daughters, are coming to the ranch, I believe, Friday night or Saturday morning, and so they're trying to be back for that. And then you know how they, Todd and Liz, how they host everybody, right? So they're gonna have a full house at their place. But anyways, that's where Todd's at. He abandoned us again before people start forming conspiracy theories of Josh. You're really keeping him off the show. I swear I'm not. He was invited to do it, but
he's keeping himself off the show.
He's keeping himself off the show. And I even told him, I said, listen, there's cell service on the island, arguably pretty decent cell service where he's at. I was like, why? If you want to call in, you can. He's like, I don't want to call in. I don't want to do that.
I've done it.
Yeah, you have done it. You've done it from a remote cabin one time. I remember that. But anyway, so Todd's out at the coast, in which it is the week of Christmas. So first, let me tell listeners and viewers that Merry Christmas. We hope that you have a wonderful holiday spent with delicious food and beer, but more importantly, with your family. We hope that if you're listening to this, you didn't wait till Monday, that we're not your escape. Go put the podcast down and go hang out with your family. But I'm looking forward to it. I love Christmas Eve. I love Christmas Day. It's my kids. You know, you have. I mean, your daughter's an adult on paper, at least. But you remember the joys of Christmas morning with opening the present, all that stuff. It's just, it's my favorite time of the year. Even though my kids are becoming brats and they're like, what'd you get us? And this and underwear and like,
well, I'll be spending Christmas in Duster, Texas with a little girl named Gracie.
Hey, is she there now?
Yeah, she's sitting under the desk.
It is wild. Say wild. It's not wild because it's expected. Every carrier we have, every visitor to the office, all know her by name now. Like every
the
time
bank tellers and everybody at every restaurant.
Everybody
here in town
knows her. It's wild. Like the FedEx person, the UPS. Everyone's like, "Oh, hey, great! How many treats does she get a day?"
She doesn't eat them, so I just kind of pile them up in a pile.
That's hilarious. But she is. And what I love about her too is her loyalty to you. You step in the bathroom and she's like, "Oh my God, where'd he go?" Yeah. She's the best.
Well,
dude.
You know, everybody knows the story. That was supposed to be my daughter's dog, but Gracie chose me instead of Emily. So,
ha. She and I forget. She's like 12 now, right?
She's almost 12. I mean, she's 11 going on 12.
She doesn't act it, dude. She has so much energy.
But she's a good dog. Yeah, best dog I've ever had.
Such a good dog. Anyway, Christmas stuff, which is a reminder, guys, if you're listening to this the day we publish it, which is Thursday, it is basically too late to guarantee an arrival by Christmas, unless you live within a stone's throw of Comanche, Texas, where we're shipping out of. So with that being said, though, through the end of the year, we still have some great deals. Let me show the first one. If it's the Ultimate Keg Accessory Bundle is still $98.95 right now. If you do the retail value on all that stuff, it's like $148.95 or something like that. So we're doing this through the end of the month. So it's not just a Christmas sale. If you want to get what I think is the absolute best bang for your buck of accessories for a keg, and if you're listening to the show and you're not kegging yet, you must be brand new, because we have been pushing kegging for 8 years of podcasting, 7.5 years, or It's been 9 years, James, since I actually recommended to Todd that we do a podcast. I saw that on my Facebook memory. It was 9 years ago. I conned him into it, but I don't think we published the first episode for a few months after I had announced, like, hey, I'm going to do this podcast for Todd Burns. And anyway, though, so the Ultimate Keg Accessory Bundle, available at kegconnection.com. Link is also in the description or show notes or wherever you're viewing or consuming this episode. And also, of course, if you're trying to get a last minute gift, if you're a friend, family member, or a spouse of a loved one who watches this show and they're like, hey, tune into Homebrew Happy Hour for some ideas for me, it's too late for that. But the gift cards, it's not too late for. You can get gift certificates available on the homepage at kegconnection.com. James, I know you don't see it on your screen. I've really been using DALL-E with ChatGPT for images. Like our show cover art has been DALL-E, and I made this. The prompt was smiling Santa in a workshop, drinking beer, holding a gift card. It delivered pretty good. I think
so. You just tell them what you want, and it does it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I when I first started getting into ChatGPT, because I use it to help write articles and whatever. The best piece of advice, they're like, speak to it like a subordinate, and then I was like, well,
like a teacher.
Yeah. So I was like, well, how would Todd speak to me? And that's how I speak to ChatGPT, and it gives great results. Don't tell Todd that he can replace me with ChatGPT, because it gives way better results than I give him. But either way, friends, go to kegconnection.com if you're trying to get some last minute stuff. We appreciate the business. I'm telling you right now, as a small mom and pop business, we sincerely appreciate your patronage. This time of year, you would think like, oh, December's good months. It's actually really slow. It's the end of December, pardon me. You know, like right now, we're in no man's land where our vendors, especially our European ones, are like on their 30th vacation of the year, or 30th week of vacation. There's 52 weeks in a year. Would you say the average German, James, only works 20 of those weeks? I'm being facetious, but they're off all the time.
That's being generous, I think.
But they're off all the time. It's right now. It's like, oh, it's end of year festival. We're going for end of year. But then like last month was Strudel Fest or something, and the month before that was later Hosenville, or I don't know. But they're always gone. But either way, people are content with having already spent all their money on Christmas presents. But then on the commercial side, like I said, everyone end of year, they're not trying to add inventory to their taps or whatever. Blah blah blah. Not to go into the minutia. I'm just saying that we sincerely appreciate it. And even more so, we sincerely appreciate members of our patreon.com/homebrew happy hour Trub Club, because they are, oh, look, Todd's calling in right now. No, I'm not answering. He's not video calling. He's calling because he doesn't realize we're recording. We sincerely appreciate it, which is my segue to saying for this month, last call, my friends, if you want to get on board with a London Porter, if you had commented at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour on the post for the London Porter, I've already shipped it out. I got them out yesterday, which was Wednesday. We're recording this on Thursday morning, and I appreciate James's time, because I was upstairs just doing recipes all day yesterday. I'm slow. So we got almost 40, I think, is what it ended up being for this month. London Porters that went out. And it's not the most straightforward recipe kit, James. You would think it might be. It had a lot of ingredients. So I'm over there, scooping here, weighing this, doing that. I enjoy the recipes. I really do. But sometimes some of them are a little more complicated. But either way, it is the last call. If you comment on it now, or if you join again at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour, join the recipe receiving tier, you comment on the post, we will get it out to you. It might be before, or it might be right after the new year, or if enough people comment, I'll come up a day next week and ship out whatever needs to go out. Or actually, Inez and Arian both told me, they're like, hey, if you ever need us to help you. So I was like, oh, that's actually extremely nice of them to offer. I forgot that some of the CM Becker girls sometimes helped with recipes back in the day when we had Homebrew Supply. Like, they're not strangers to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've done recipes too. I know if I absolutely had to, I could tell you, James, please do this. And you would.
Absolutely.
I know you would. Exactly. But I also don't mind the trip up there. It's this time of year. It's actually a really beautiful drive. But anyways, all of that can be found again at homebrewhappyhour.com/homebrew, or pardon me, patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. And, Like I said, we greatly appreciate everyone who's a member of our Patreon Chub Club. And if you're not, that's fine too. You can still join our Facebook group and contribute to the community. The fact that you're even tuning in, being a part of the show, even if you're not contributing in regards to on our Patreon, that's fine. Your liking of the episodes at YouTube or our Facebook post, sharing it, all that helps what we're trying to do, and we couldn't do it without you. So I want to wrap up this year. I guess it's not really our New Year wrap-up show. That's next week. But in the holiday spirit of Christmas, I want to say thank you. And I know James and Todd both echo my sentiments that we are blown away by the support that our community gives us, and we're extremely gracious for it. So thank y'all so much. So I think that's all the small talk. I don't have listener feedback, and I only have 3 questions. I'm going to get us out of here kind of quick this week, James. Our first question is a voicemail, and it is from our buddy Jared from New Jersey.
Hello, gentlemen. This is Jared from New Jersey. Thanks so much for your show. Although I've been listening for quite a while, this week I got on your website for the first time. And Joshua, you've done a great job with the graphic design and the artwork. At least I'm assuming that was you.
It was.
So my question this week is in regards to getting a full 5-gallon batch size when fermenting in 5-gallon corny kegs. I've been fermenting in kegs for pressure fermenting and easy close transfers. But obviously, in order to leave an appropriate amount of headspace in the keg fermenter, I have to reduce my final batch size to around 4 gallons. I know some large commercial breweries brew and ferment at a high gravity and then dilute it prior to packaging or at packaging. And I was thinking of doing the same and adding another 1 gallon of water to the serving keg post-fermentation to bring it up from 4 to 5 gallons. My concerns with this are 2. One, that maybe it would introduce oxygen, contained within the water, the dissolved oxygen in the water that I'm adding. And 2, that it might potentially cause infection. So I was thinking of boiling the water first and then letting it cool before adding it. I was wondering what you thought of this, if you think that'd be helpful or if you think it's unnecessary, maybe that there's not enough dissolved oxygen in tap water to be an oxidation concern, or there's already alcohol in the beer, so that'll kill off the potential bacteria that could be introduced. Anyway, your thoughts on boiling or not boiling when adding water into the serving keg. Thank you. Bye.
That is one of the things, James. Well, first off, Jared, thank you so much for submitting the question. That is one of the things that people who ferment in kegs, which we still don't do, with the ultimate, I have all the stuff for the ultimate keg accessory, and I'm going to do a New Year's Day live stream brew day with my pop. I say that I haven't asked him yet. Dad, you want to come over and brew with me? I'm brewing on New Year's Day.
Oh, he'll.
I know he will.
Yeah.
I know he will. I brought home the stuff for an alt beer, and so we haven't brewed an alt beer in like 5 years. So because you're always the one brewing it, and it's better than what I can brew. So it's like, oh, James brewed one. I'm not brewing one. So we're gonna try it an alt beer. But anyway, but people who ferment in the keg frequently say, I wish I could get a full 5, but I had to leave the headspace for the fermentation and all that jazz. If you were doing this, put yourself in his boots and you were trying to get it to volume, how would you achieve that? And if the only the only options he's saying is like, well, I'm going to add the water. Would you boil it or not boil it? And then how would you introduce it to the keg? Would you open the lid and not worry because it's already alcohol, or would you do a closed transfer through the liquid dip tube and all that jazz?
I would do the closed transfer for sure. But I would probably, if I didn't do a closed transfer, well, let me back up. How James Carlson would do it is I would have my fermenter keg, and then I would run it through it. Now, keep in mind, this is completely fermented out. It's finished. It's done. There's a lot of trub in the bottom of the keg, or trube. I'll say it both ways for everybody in the audience. I would actually run it through a filter. But you need to kind of know the volume that's in the existing keg and how much more water you need to top it off in the new keg. That's important. I don't necessarily, because we use an RO system, it goes through our system goes through 4 filters before it hits the pitcher. Keep in mind, too, that the finished beer now has alcohol in it. So there's going to be less chance of infection, but a huge chance of oxidation. So this is the reason why I would do it this certain way. And I apologize, everybody out there. I'm kind of weird like this, so just bear with me. So I've got the original fermented keg with, let's say it's got 4 gallons in it. Reduce the volume. You still have higher gravity, and you're going to reduce it down. I would have the new keg with the volume of water in the keg purged with CO2. And then I would introduce liquid to liquid transfer. So you're going to have 2 liquid or black Seebecker disconnects. This is important. You have to use Seebecker disconnects or it won't work.
I love it.
Joking.
I love it.
So then I would move the product with CO2 through the fermenting keg on the gas side, plug it up, and put about 5 pounds of pressure. It doesn't really matter. They're stainless steel kegs. They're rated to 120 pounds or something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, low pressure, serving pressure, move it over into the other purged with water keg. And then you say, well, James, what do I do if I put too much water in the other keg? Well, you're going to have to get rid of it. And the best way to do it would be to dispense on the liquid side under pressure, and then, or just cut your losses and say, I've got and then you might have you definitely have clear beer going through a filter, but don't sweat the little small details. If it tastes good, it's got a good gravity and it's what you want, that's the exact way to do it. But that's the way I would do it. Yeah. I'd have the receiving keg already with water purged with CO2, and I use RO water. You can buy RO water at the store. I think it's perfectly safe to put in the keg. You definitely don't want to splash it. You want to introduce that on the liquid side or through a funnel with a long tube, so you're not splashing, you're filling from the bottom to the top. That's the important part. And then move the wort or the now created beer through a 1 micron filter into the new keg. Done deal. Purge it with CO2, carbonate it, you're done.
That is the James Carlson way. If they don't, and I'll throw in some variables of how, like I'm trying to work the ultimate keg accessory bundle into this conversation. Todd gave me a task. He said, sell. No, I'm kidding. But but I'm thinking though, because not everyone filters and not everyone has the housing and all that. And some people are like, James, I love the idea. I love the concept of it, but it's just, it could be intimidating. So what people could do as well though, in their fermenting keg, because the ideal for me, if I was going to ferment in a keg, would be on my gas post, have a spunding valve, because I'm going to be doing it under pressure. And then on my liquids, on my lid would be that dip tubed, the floating dip tube. Yeah, that way, because then when it's done, when I can tell that the fermentation's done, I agree with everything you said too, specifically about transferring, especially if you're trying to get a full volume, a full keg, pardon me. So I also use RO, and I have it. Before I go on, if they don't have RO and they don't want to buy it, is boiled water and letting it cool down?
Sure. Just cool it down, boil it and cool it down in the container it's in. Put it in the fridge and let it cool down, or put it in the sink with ice water and cool it down that way.
Yeah. But that would work. Yeah. But again, the RO, before I had my father-in-law help me put RO in my garage, running water and an RO system, it wasn't terribly expensive. I think I was spending $2.20 for 5 gallons at the.
I know you can get a 2.5 gallon. I call it a brick of Ozarka water, and it was like, at the time it was like $5.99 or $6-7.
Yeah. But it's if you have the plastic carboy. Like I have a bunch of them in like Penguin Ice or Arctic, or I forget, it's a commercial brand. Walgreens of all places has a dispensing machine. It's cheap. So it's real cheap. But either way, I would use RO, like you said as well, in the receiving keg. You have to do some math, guys, like James said, in regards to figuring out what you need to get the full. It's not. I mean, if it's not as easy, I don't think, as saying, well, I probably only have 4 gallons I want to bring over, so put a 1 gallon in there. But you could do that. But like you said, if it ends up being more, okay, you're not going to be able to transfer everything over. It is what it is. But
right.
Either way,
you'd have to get creative and bleed off from the receiving tank, or just dump what's in the other tank.
Exactly. Yeah. But so I fermented in this keg. When I transferred my worts in there for fermentation, I already had the spunding valve on the gas side, and I already have the lid with the floating dip tube on. When it's done that way, because it's all pressurized now at this point, it's purged by the CO2 that was formed during fermentation, and I have a jumper cable that I'm going to now come liquid off of my fermenting keg, and it's just mine's like a 3-foot run, but you can mate these with any, like James said, the important part is on both sides. It's C and Becker distillants, but I have it on the liquid post of the keg that I fermented in, and I go put it on the liquid post of the keg I'm transferring into, and then on the gas post, like you said, 3 to 5 psi, and I just transferred over now into that keg that has the water in it and was also purged. It purges it. And like you said, I think the important factor, besides the C and Becker distillants, the most important factor is the purging, because you don't want oxygen, even though, like Todd, one of Todd's most popular videos when we tried doing a keg connection YouTube before Homebrew Happy Hour was ever a thing, was transferring from secondary into a keg. And one of the things he said that stuck with me is like, I'm careful at this point. Things are clean and whatever, but like it's already alcohol. So the likelihood of me ruining it at this point is slim in regards to how he was doing it. He had and it was an open transfer. He had the old school auto siphon in the carboy, and he had just the tube at the bottom of the keg. And because people who do that will go, oh, it's still technically splashing. Yeah, but people have been doing that for hundreds of years and didn't have issues. But either way, with Jared's question, I think we offered him a couple of solutions that the filter one is the ideal way for clear beer going forward. Like, it does not get any better than that solution. If you filter that beer.
I will say this, with 1 micron, it won't filter real powdery yeast. We saw that at Homebrew Con. I don't know if that was a combination of really fine powdery yeast. You can't really clear up with anything over a 0.5 micron. So I don't want people out there to think, well, James said if you get a 10 by 2-inch filter housing, you get a 1 micron filter, you push beer through it, it's going to be crystal clear. It won't.
No, right.
It'll be presentable to drink. If you want anything beyond that, you would have to do a 3 setup with a 5, a 1, and a 0.5. Now, keep in mind, those are $20 filters a piece. Yeah. So there's a dollar factor that comes into play that probably most people won't want to spend $20 for perfectly crystal clear beer. And also, I know we kind of got off the beaten path, but I'm just going to throw this in there. If you go down to 0.5 micron, there is a chance that you can actually pull some flavors out of the beer. Anybody that's got a Brita filter, pour some Mountain Dew in one. It'll surprise you what filtering can actually do for flavor and taste.
No way. I mean, that made sense, but I never. So
you just the finer you get. So the best thing of all is just to let it set cold and clarify on its own. Yeah. Have the dip tube cut about a 0.5 inch shorter than it is normally. You don't want it down in that little dip in the center of the keg. And just keep that in mind. But the easiest way to do that too is just do a close transfer into another keg. Yeah. If you don't have any way of adding water, you can get a funnel and sanitize the funnel. Yeah. Todd will say, "Why, James? This is me." And then,
to be safe,
you want to put the funnel into the beer, so then technically you're not splashing, and then just carefully pour down the side of the funnel the water you need to top it off. close it up, purge it with CO2, and then carbonate.
Yep.
But that's the short answer on that very long question.
Yeah. Why do you think commercial breweries that do it like that? Is it easier to brew higher gravity and dilute down than to try to?
I've never heard anybody doing that. I just figured batch size and ABV went hand in hand. But if they're doing that, I can kind of understand it. Another thing is most commercial breweries, or all, if not all commercial brewers, they have a specific strain for the yeast for their beer, and they have to completely filter it out because they don't want anybody. And most yeast strains in big beer is proprietary, and they want to get that out of the beer because if there's any residual yeast, you can take that yeast, propagate it, and create your own clone of that beer. So the stuff that they use to filter out beer, a lot of equipment, especially this year at the trade show, they had centrifugal beer clarifiers. So basically they just run the beer through a spinning drum, and that spinning drum pulls the particulates out of the beer with just gravity. And but they're extremely expensive. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there.
No. I like it because I started us down this rabbit trail for you, Todd. This rabbit hole. I started it, but at the brow, I forget that is like the bleeding edge of craft beer technology or beverage industry technology. I'm sure you saw some real cool stuff walking around.
Yeah.
I can't imagine who can afford that at a macro level. Even it's just like the handful of macro conglomerates that are getting the centrifugal or whatever, the centrifuge.
Well, another one is too, like Wes's system, when we did that, we put it together and did the first batch. He actually had a plate chiller, and it was just plates stacked together that you run the beer through. And so it was really cool because it ran through this, and I don't know if you remember, I pointed it out to you. It kind of almost looked like a boiler heater.
Yep.
And it pushes the beer in and out, and then it goes through an oxygenation chamber. And so when it hits the fermenter, it's ready for yeast.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of tools that they use at bigger breweries that is just for the common people is just out of reach.
Just totally way too expensive.
Just set and forget cold, and that's the best way to clarify beer. Sometimes it'll take 6 to 8 weeks, but by the time you're done, I would say don't move the keg if it's cold and clear. Try to figure out some way of transferring that and without moving the keg, and you don't want to disturb all that at the bottom that's settled out. But clear beer is a chore, but it makes the beer so much better. Appetizing to look at.
Oh my gosh! Well, that's why later today after work, I'm going to take we have that other keg of Kolsch that we basically floated the first keg. And I told my dad, I was like, darn it, I should have brought this Monday because I knew I was going to be out of town. Because the longer it sits, I'm going to disturb it in transit, right? That's no doubt. Thankfully, people aren't coming over till Monday, and today's Thursday. So it's like, okay, that should be enough time to settle back down, clear out, or whatever. But like you said, it's for me, and maybe I'm a snob. I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments below, friends. Clear beer makes a difference for the styles I'm serving. Like obviously our breakfast stout, which is we have 2 variations of it on tap. We have still some of last year's batch, and then we have. Did you take it home? By the way, I left it upstairs for you.
I keep forgetting. I won't forget.
But I did my part.
Tomorrow,
Todd owes me $5. I did my part. But obviously, that's not a clear beer, right? I don't care about that.
It doesn't matter with those because you can't see through them anyway. You can't see through them.
But we're doing a Kolsch. We have your Pilsners, even pale ale. I mean, there's not. Maybe Hefeweizen, which I don't drink. I can't think of a style besides hazies and Hefeweizens that I don't want to see clear. You know what I mean? Like every other style, I'm like, oh, man, your Kolsch could taste wonderful, but if it's a haze bomb, something in my brain's like,
yeah, it's a mental thing.
It's a mental thing.
That's the one thing. Both competitions that we put on this year, I was genuinely pleased at how a huge percentage of those beers sent in, and they were all bottled, was clear.
Most of them.
Quite a few, more than I would ever guess, were crystal clear.
So yeah,
it makes a difference from the judges. I don't care what anybody says. If you've got crystal clear, good carbonated, good head retention, you're getting psyched out in your brain, and that beer will get reviewed better than a delicious beer that's hazy.
I agree, dude.
Unless it's part of that style,
right.
like a hazy IPA.
Yeah.
We're talking about a hazy Pilsner and a clear Pilsner.
Let's do that next year. Let's do the hazy Pilsner competition. Well, no, I'm kidding.
Not.
No,
let's do and say we did.
Yeah. No, Todd was like, let's do an IPA one. I think we already etched that out. I just ignored him. Anyways, Jared, what a great question. Great way to start the show. Friends, if you're watching at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour, leave us a comment below if you have any feedback. Or if you want to get yourself a $25 gift card, leave it as a voicemail to 325-305-6107. And like Jared, if I play it on a future episode, you get yourself a $25 gift card. And we need questions too, though. Last few weeks when y'all both were on, or the last few times y'all both been on, I was like, I'm going to take 3 voicemails or 4 voicemails. And then I realized like, oh crap, I went through a lot of them. I'm down to like less than a dozen. So friends, it's a win-win thing here. Leave a voicemail, get yourself a gift card when I use it. It can't just be like, Josh, you're the best, blah, blah, blah. I love those, but I can't play those on every week unless you have a great question tied to that. But anyways, Jared, thank you so much for submitting that. Our second question is a text from our buddy George P. Again, our hotline 325-305-6107. When you text it, you get yourself a $15 gift card, which I think is still pretty good. George wrote in, hiya fellas. Could I get away with bottling beer in new plastic pop bottles? Friend of a friend gave me dozens of plastic bottles listed for pop. I don't make pop, but I don't want these going to waste. Why have bottlers traditionally used glass? 2 questions for you. Thanks. And then he left a link, which I'll put in the show notes, guys, of the bottles he's talking about. I went on Amazon, found them. Yeah, they're just, I think, 12 ounce. So, bottles that are, it says beer on the listing. I didn't see.
Absolutely.
I didn't see a pressure rating. I'll answer his second question first, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe bottlers in the homebrew sense have used glass because we upcycle, because people get a 12 pack or a K, back when people were first homebrewing and the distribution was mostly through glass bottles, you're not going to reuse a can anyway if you had a can, but they would clean out and sanitize those glass bottles from whatever craft beer they just drank that weekend. And then they would use that to try to save money when they're bottling their own beer. That's the only thing I can think of is why homebrewers have traditionally used glass. I might be wrong on that. I don't know if it's probably not just a price thing from you can upcycle craft beer bottles, but buying glass bottles is dirt cheap as well. It's dirt cheap, but plastic bottles.
And for the most part, most people drink beer out of a glass bottle. So why wouldn't they want a bottle in glass, just like they've been buying beer in glass bottles for 100 years?
And we do now in 2023, going on 2024, see a lot of homebrewers canning. They'd like, October, the brand makes a can seamer thing that is relatively affordable. If you're neck deep into homebrewing and homebrewing tools and toys, it's not that big of a price jump if you're trying to can. You and I keg, and we have the third question, so I won't go into bottling from a keg yet because the third question's about that stuff. But I've never thought this 10-gallon batch of beer, I'd like to sit down and do 100 bottles. No, that sounds terrible. But people like our friend George here, did you click on the link or did you happen to see the bottles? You don't have to because it's
but we have a listener that comes by from time to time, and Coy. And he drops his beer off in these bottles that I'm looking at. But his are tinted, I guess. They're
okay.
Well, I've got one. Let me grab one.
Yeah, you don't grab one, and I'll make small talk here while James is gone. I suspect if it's rated for a certain pressure, the bases I would cover if I'm using something not glass. Make sure it's rated for whatever pressure. If you're bottle conditioning, you're gonna have carbonation forming in there. Now, what George didn't mention is if he's going to be bottling from a keg, which makes it totally different. You'd have a counter pressure bottle filler or the Blickman beer gun or whatever. I'm jumping ahead because our third question asks these kinds of things. But where I'm going with is as long as the vessel is rated for the pressure of the beverage that you're putting in it, I don't see any problems. Again, like our first question where we talked about purging being the important part, hygiene is going to be the important part, whether you're using glass or plastic, right? You want to make sure they're clean and sanitized. Did you find one? I saw that you did.
I did.
So they're, oh, look at that. So amber plastic bottle, and you've never had any issue. The beer. Now,
I don't bottle, but this is what we get samples from Coy. And I didn't tell you, he makes really good, delicious beer. One of his favorite beers is the alt beer. And this is what he gives. Now I save them. And that's what, and another thing too, is this is basically a soda bottle. They're a whole lot higher pressure than beer. So they're rated very high.
Okay.
And a lot of people think that the reason why they don't use plastic is they don't want it to affect the plasticizers to leach into the beer and cause it to taste. But that may be the case in long-term storage, and maybe that's why, because glass won't do that. But in a short term, if you're wanting to bring some beer to a party, there's nothing wrong with these at all.
I like that. And that one being amber colored seems like it was produced specifically for beer, because there ain't no soda that you need it. I don't believe the UV affects soda water like it affects beer.
No, it doesn't.
Right? Yeah. And now that I think about it, the only soda I can remember in bottles being that color were like root beer. But I think that was that was a branding thing. That wasn't a functional thing. That was just root beer. It's dark and whatever. Now, again, not to chastise George for bottling, because why are you bottling, George? That sounds terrible. When I looked at the Amazon link, that's about the same price as the same amount for glass bottles. So, but
you don't have bottle bombs.
Oh, that's a good point. You know, that's a great point.
Like if you tend to overcarbonate them. Now, don't say, well, James said they wouldn't explode.
Oh.
Now, I didn't say that. I just said that their penchant to explode like glass is a lot higher pressure than glass.
Oh my gosh.
So
they're going to snip that little part and say, no, James said. No, all he said was the concern of bottle bombs is less in plastic.
Yeah, it's less.
You're right. When you were gone, I know you have your headphones in. You didn't have the mic on, or you don't have a traveling mic. But I was saying just make sure it's pressure rated. Obviously, if it's for soda, it's going to be pressure rated high enough for beer. You're right. That I should edit that out, because people at that point who were listening and understood it were probably, Josh, what are you talking about? Of course it's enough. Like those kegs we use are rated so high because they were for soda. That's the whole reason they're rated so high. If they made those specifically for beer, they might not have had them able to handle such high PSI, because no one's serving beer at 100 or And what is soda though? I do my sparkling water at like 40.
I tell you, the soda systems that I set up, most of them are 60 PSI for the bib pumps and the system, and then 90 PSI for the carbonator. So you have to use, I do. When I set up a soda system, I use two regulators, one for the BIB pumps and one just for the carbonator, but 60 pounds.
Which, by the way, not necessarily soda. You guys have gotten so many install jobs lately.
We just picked up another one in Brownwood.
That's what he told me. He was like, we're going to put a landing page on Keg Connection for those services, and another CM Becker project. We're getting those faucets out there, which, by the way, George, thank you for the text. And I think we answered the question, but while I'm segueing into a whole different topic, but it interests me. We're about to fly out next week. We're going to have to record early on Wednesday, because then I'm driving up there next week. It's in 2 weeks. It's not next week. Pardon me. It's 2 weeks it's 3 weeks from yesterday. Or 2 weeks. Pardon me. 2 weeks from yesterday. 2 weeks from today. Literally, we're hopping on a plane. We're flying into Missouri, because a great partner of CM Becker, a new guy, Hubertus Beer, he's installing some German taps in a lot of brew houses, and we're going to go highlight the guy for CM Becker. Now that I'm saying it out loud, maybe we should do an episode with him. That might be interesting, to talk to an actual beer installer. That might be interesting. But we're definitely doing some video stuff with him. Because here's how I heard about him. Todd called me like, dude, this guy it loves CM Becker faucets, and he's making all his tower to be compatible with every solution that Sam Becker has, whether it's just standard faucets or the flow control Shanes. Like, he's not doing projects anymore that he can't upgrade people to flow control, true flow control. It's I like it mostly, James, because I think when people use CM Becker faucets and they get bit by the bug, that's when they get it. You know what I mean? When they use it, that's when they get it. He was using another competitor's faucets. I won't throw anyone under the bus because we love everyone in the industry, but he was not happy with the results of these other faucets. He switched earlier this year to CM Becker, and then literally has been like the biggest evangelist for CM Becker faucets that I've ever seen online. Our social media account for our Instagram for CM Becker only gets action now from him. It's great. I love it. I love it.
Well, he called me the other day. I was actually calling for Todd, and called me, and it's kind of infectious. He was such a big fan of the V10 faucet. He said he put a long draw system in a restaurant. And he said all he had to do is do a 4-foot choker line. And he said they pour perfect.
He said, yeah, he loves it. I mean,
that's why we've got to get that guy to do a video, because
he's genuine,
way over my pay grade on that kind of stuff.
He's genuine. When people are like, one of the things, rest in peace, Teddy's Brew House. I know they got replaced with a restaurant or something in that spot. But my favorite part of that video is when they are talking about the faucets, they're being genuine. Like, they're saying like, well, we love it because it reduces the waste. We love it because we don't have to, like bartenders that we hire, and it's a lot of turnover, aren't necessarily paying attention. Like if we were using standard faucets and it's just, it's foamy, okay, just let it pour. A lot of waste, where you're able to dial in that V10 and get the flow just right, to where all they do is open it up, and if they have to adjust on the side, they can, but there's no waste. Like, that's the biggest selling point, is like, how much is a keg of beer worth it to you to lose every night? And the faucets aren't that much once you do the initial investment. It's not bad. But anyway, people listening now are like, Josh, get out of salesman mode. No, y'all aren't the people that Sam Becker's selling to anyways, but you can get their products at kegconnection.com. Use promo code HHH, get yourself 5% off your order. Anyways, George, thank you so much for submitting your question. The final reminder, if and when you send us a text to 325-305-6107, you get yourself a $15 gift card, or same hotline, but leave a voicemail. And when I use it on a future episode, you get yourself a $25 gift card. Like our last question of the show, it's a voicemail from our buddy Adam from Florida.
Hello, gentlemen. It's Adam here in Florida. Got a question for you guys. I currently use the Blickman beer gun, but it's a little bit of a, excuse my French, pain in the ass to, you got to get your keg out. You might jostle your keg up, so you rise some sediment, then you got to get it balanced, then you do your bottles that you're entering the competition and so on. It's a little bit of a pain. But there's this item out there called the Tap Cooler Counter Pressure Bottle Filler. It's offered by your comrades over there at More Beer. And it refers to a forward-feeling faucet, example given, Perlick and Intertap. So I'm wondering if the CM Becker faucets I currently have will work with this tap cooler, or do I need to change a faucet? Because if I just have one faucet to do this, I could just switch the beer to that, and I'd be fine. But I would love to just tap off the keg and not have to open up the kegerator and get everything warm and move the keg outside and hook up these lines and so on and so forth. So that would be a huge help. Maybe your products do it. Also, I wanted to say that your recipes are awesome. I have the Todd VSB on tap right now. It's a fabulous beer. And, wow, keep up the good work brewing the Christmas ale this week sometime. Wish I could have last weekend, but too busy. So this Friday, hopefully that's the day. I'm looking forward to it. Take care, guys. Bye.
Adam, thank you so much for the question.
Great question.
And let me, before we get into the what products do or don't, why is it, James, that a guy like me can't just put a tube off of a tap into the bottom of a bottle and fill it that way? Why do I need these contraptions and counter pressure this and that when I'm bottling from a keg? Do you know?
Because as soon as that beer hits the bottle out of pressure, it breaks out. So it's going to foam like crazy. And then that foam can also, we ran into a display, the faucets that have they're made in
Lucre.
Is it
the Lucre faucet?
Lucre.
Yeah.
Okay. So we went to their display and they were pouring foamy beer and they were pouring regular beer with their Lucre faucet. And I was amazed at how bitter the beer was. It was two things. It was more bitter and flat with the breakout beer is what we called it. Basically a beer with nothing but foam. And then the one without that had just the right amount of foam. They do the foam at the very beginning and then so they get the head the way they want at the bottom of the glass and then tilt it and then fill it up with just solid beer. It's completely backwards on how I draft beer.
No kidding.
But there was a noticeable difference in carbonation and flavor pouring that way. So that's the biggest reason. If in order to fill a bottle from another pressurized vessel, you have to balance the two together so you maintain carbonation without foaming. So yield goes up, costs go down because you're able to put more beer in more bottles and sell those bottles of beer and make more money per yield per vessel. So that's one of the main reasons why I've done it. But I'm going across town to a friend's house and say, here's my growler full of semi-carbonated beer. But if you're going to compete, you can't do that. I've done that. And one things that stood out was the fact that all the judge mentioned that it was undercarbonated. And that's because when it hit the bottle and the bottle's warm and it's not under pressure, that CO2 left the beer in foam. I had to let the foam run out until I got a full bottle. Well, I got a little bit of carbonated beer, but for the most part, I poured a flat beer for judges to trash. So that's the reason why we have these contraptions. And the Blinkman beer gun's a great product. That tap cooler, is that what they're calling it?
Yeah, I've never used it. I've seen it.
And yes, it is an adapter that fits on inner tap and Perlick faucets. All of our faucets currently do not accept that size. And our most popular faucet, the V3S, is a forward sealing. It's a competitor to the Perlick faucet and the inner tap. But they have a nozzle pressed into the body. It won't it's not compatible with that adapter. And if you try to use it, if it fits in there, there's a chance you'll force that nozzle out of the body. And then, well, James, what if we pull the nozzle off and use it that way? Then the cavity's too big for the adapter. So just bottom line is our C.M. Becker faucets, they're all designed and built in Germany. They're just not designed for that because they were designed 20 years ago. And none of that was important for them at the time. So yes, you would. Unfortunately, you'll have to have one specific faucet, whatever that is, that fits that. And I would say the inner tap was probably the best fitting one because that's the closest to the manufacturer on what the product is.
Yeah, when he said Perlick, I was surprised because I thought it was only inner tap. From our anecdotal experience of people using it, inner tap, that forward seal inner tap is the one everyone said. That's what which the inner tap, it's so funny how faucet, like when I first started working for Todd, it'll be 16 years coming up. Wow. There was Ventmatic was the first company that had that design that like that Perlick and Intertap both have now. And I don't remember if Ventmatic sold and then they tried to sue people or whatever, but long story short, the Intertap is like the closest to that Ventmatic. And the tap cooler, you have to assume the guy who made it, that's probably the faucets they had, right? Or they realized like
I just assume so.
I mean, that's what I always assume too. It's like they picked a faucet they thought a lot of people had and that they were probably using and made a solution for it.
And to be fair, I mean, that's probably a lot of people can make the argument that's the Perlick faucet because that's extremely popular.
Oh, extremely. Absolutely. Homebrew and commercial. I mean, again, years ago when we were in San Marcos and working for Todd, I mean, Perlitts were flying off the shelf as the upgrade from a standard Chinese faucet. Or I say Chinese, India made more of those faucets than anybody back then. But,
yeah, and that was actually the very first forward sealing faucet I've ever seen.
Was the Perlick.
And I bought it from Todd.
Yeah.
When I moved into my house out in Duster, I found one of the technicians at the dealership had a fridge he gave me. So the first thing I did was I wanted keg beer because I was used to having it and lost my kegerator in the divorce of all things. So I ended up getting it, and I had a Perlick. and the
525,
one of
right?
the 525, which they were prone to dripping. And I've told this story several times on the podcast, but I lost a quarter keg of Shinerbach.
Yeah. Oh.
To just a slow drip that continued. What this one would do, would start dripping slowly. And I don't even think they make that faucet anymore, and then it would gradually increase over time. And I woke up smelling beer. And it smelled like a frat house.
The worst.
And went into the mud room, and there was Shinerbach everywhere on the floor.
Oh, that would be so pissed. My first faucets I had were the standard chrome plated brass, and then
as was mine.
Yeah, and then and then Todd gifted me. I was a freelancer for him, and he gifted me a Ventmatic to reply. I only had one faucet at the time. And then my first actual upgrade that I paid, thankfully, it was the Todd Burns Friends and Family price, which means retail plus 30%. But the V2G was my first upgrade. That was before, that was back with the old owner of Sam Becker, Michael Korkish, who's been on the show as well. Great guy. But that was before Todd owned it. And I had a V2G. And I'm telling you, dude, that's still one of my favorite faucets that's not flow control. And unfortunately we discontinued it due to slow sales. But the V3S with the bent nozzle is as good of a replacement as you can possibly get. It's basically the same faucet with a shorter body. It's basically the same. It's more compact. Stretch the V3S, you'd have a V2G. Yeah, the V2G. And was unfortunately, it just never took off. More people wanted the compact V3S. Yep. So we had to make the tough decision because we have to produce these in bulk. Massive and if we quantities. Can't justify, 2,000, because we're generally doing, 1,000 to 2,000 a time. Yeah. Because we have to have those bodies. They're actually sand cast from powdered stainless steel, of all things. A lot of people say, well, James, that's impossible. Yeah, they do that. So that's how the factory has cast the bodies, and then they have to machine them. And if you're not selling that product, then you're spending money on something that's just going to sit on the shelf. So we had to make the decision to push those aside and push the V3S. Yeah, which again, great faucet. But to wrap up Adam's question, because I'm sorry, again, when Todd's not here to tell, you don't chastise me like Todd does. Todd will be like, well, let's get back to Adam's question. You're too nice. You humor me. But to tie it up, if you're not comfortable if I had a Blickman beer gun, I'm so cheap, I would just keep using that. But I understand the concern. You moving the keg, oh crap, I might have gotten sentiment, all that. I get it. First off, why are you bottling anyways? But yeah, for competition. If you're dead set, Adam, on using the tap cooler because that's the solution you want, you don't want to move the keg at all, get a faucet. Get an Intertap. They're great. I'll put a link in the show notes so that if you do end up getting one, we'll get credit for it at More Beer. We have an affiliate. We love the More Beer guys, and they were nice enough to give us a very handsome affiliate program. They have a ton of affiliates already, but they gave us a very nice friend and family one, which means we owe them money. No, I'm kidding. That's the Todd Burns thing. But the thing I can say about More Beer in regards to C.M. Becker, they're a great customer, one of our biggest customers, and we just love them to death. They're good dudes. They are good. Olin and dudes. Chris, and I forget Olin's brother's name, but yeah, they're all the ones I've ever had the pleasure of hanging out with or talking to. They've been on the show too. Real good guys, and we've always, since we closed down Homebrew Supply, which transparency say they bought the domain. That's all they bought from Todd. But we sent people there, not just because of that, but because they, believe it or not, they're not a conglomerate. They're a mom and pop shop that's still family owned and operated. Owned. They're just massive, but they are still privately owned by the same family that since it started in like the late 90s. So good dudes. If you can support them, do it. But if you can support us first, do it. No, I'm kidding. Adam, I think we covered that. But yeah, if you have to have a single faucet because that's the solution you want, those Intertaps, they're not terribly expensive. They're not bad. And thank you for the shout out. Adam does, he's in the every other month membership of our patreon.com/homebrew happy hour Chub Club. And I think that's the sweet spot for most people, James. Getting a kit every other month is very doable to keep up with. We have guys that are getting now 10 gallons every month, and I salute them because them and Todd are the only people I know who every month are brewing multiple big batch, and a big for us, 10, 15 gallon batches a month. Todd, when he gets in a groove, he's brewed up to like 3 or 4 15-gallon batches a month. It's wild. But they're about to go on that trip, the CMB trip to Portugal and stuff. So I'm not sure if January he's going to be brewing a bunch. But like I kind of mentioned,
it's dry January for him. So
there's no way he's doing dry January in Spain and Portugal.
He does it every year.
I bet you $5.
Maybe it doesn't count if it's overseas.
Listen, I am going to do dry January, but it's an asterisk like Barry Bonds' home run record because we're going right after New Year to St. Louis, and I do not think we're going to not have a meal with alcohol involved. And then I'm going to be I
didn't even think about that.
I'm actually doing dry January. No, we're going to drink with him. St. Louis is a beer city. It is, isn't that still the big campus for Budweiser? Isn't that still St. Louis? Isn't that where they have a huge brewing campus there? I'm not saying we're going to drink Budweiser, friends, as much as I'm saying I doubt we're going to go visit a vendor and not enjoy ourselves. So I'm doing dry-ish January.
I'm not.
Well, good, because I brought you a keg of delicious breakfast, and carbonate it. Remember, carbonate before you take it home.
Oh yeah,
or carbonate.
But I actually prefer the stouts on the lower carbonation side.
Me too. That's why
just like a cask beer.
I did not carbonate it for that reason because I know Todd likes his a little more. And you and I like it a little less. So I said, you know what? I'm just not going to carbonate because I didn't know who was going to take which keg. So I just put them up there and Todd has his. And now you take yours home and enjoy it. And if you don't like it, don't bring it up. But if you do like it, let me know. And we will brag about it on the show. But anyways, Adam, thank you so much for submitting that. James, that's all I've got this week. I said it'd be a short episode and I'd wasted an hour of your time. So I'm good at doing that. But I appreciate it. And I hope you have a wonderful Christmas, my friend. And I will catch you soon.
You too. See you.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or even better, be Todd's friend, leave a voicemail, get yourself a $25 gift card when you use our hotline at 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show sponsors like Munton's Malt, premium grains for a better brew day. If you aren't already brewing with Munton Malt, give them a try by joining our Chub Club at a recipe receiving level. For the best hops available online, give our friends at hopsdirect.com a visit and pick up what you need for your next brew day. Also, get a pack of Imperial yeast along with premium recipes from us when you join the Chub Club. Go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. On behalf of the absent Todd Burns, the handsome James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thanks for listening.